Setting on go.
I believe we're sitting on go. That pledge, Al.
Boy, that was a great one.
That's a good way to start the day in our program. That just gets you in the right mood to encourage everybody to vote and give you some helpful information on who you need to vote for.
Okay.
I'm Nancy, and I have with me Sandy Rice this morning. We actually have a pretty interesting program lined up, I think, informative program. We sort of got together
yesterday afternoon,
right at the last minute. And Sandy, I believe we're just going to start out with the announcements, aren't we?
Right,
You're going to do the announcements. Okay.
We are expecting a call-in from Mariah Phillips, our candidate for U.S. Congress. She can give us about 15 or 20 minutes. I guess that's good that our candidate is so busy. We wouldn't want her home in her pajamas eating cookies less than 6 weeks before the election. So we'll just go ahead and shut out with things, and then when Mariah calls in, we'll just switch over to her. I've got some questions for her. So let's see. Mariah will be upstairs at Shenanigans tonight. In Suwanee from 5 to 7 p.m. We have a suggested donation of just $25 to meet Mariah, and there'll be free pizza and soft drinks. There'll be a cash bar for beer and wine. We're especially welcoming University of the South students, faculty, staff, and, of course, Franklin County residents who have not met Mariah. Time is running out. I'm not sure how many more times she'll be visiting our county before the election. I also want to mention that the Franklin County Democratic Women are doing a fundraiser for Sharon Adams, our candidate for District 39 State Representative. It will be October 6th at 10 a.m. in the Franklin County Annex Small Room. We'll have muffins and coffee, a chance to meet Sharon, and a suggested donation is $50. I just want to say just one word about why we say suggested donations. The candidates need money.
Yes.
And especially state races and challengers, they just don't have the influx of money like an incumbent does with national things. So in order to get brochures and signs and, gas money and ads of any kind, they need money. So we just make a suggestion so that you if you attend one of these things, you don't feel awkward or unprepared. You can give more, always more, or less. The most important thing is for you to meet the candidate and vote. I also would like to invite people to contact me to volunteer for phone banking or canvassing in Franklin County. We're combining with Bredesen and Carl Dean campaigns to go out Saturday at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. and then Sunday at 12:30. I can give you more information. We do have maps and scripts and what to say and what to do and handbills, and it's very interesting. I've been canvassing in Franklin and Grundy counties, just meeting people on their doorstep. I've found lots of neighborhoods that I never knew existed, and lots of people that are concerned and want to talk about our candidates. And voting or not, just give me a call at 678-618-5574. Also at the Democratic Party headquarters in Deckard, across from the pizza parlor, we are open Thursdays 10 to 12, Fridays 2 to 6, and Saturdays 10 to 2. This is if you want to get a sign, volunteer, get more information. Is this Mariah calling in?
Yes.
Good morning, Mariah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just waiting for my time. I'm
all right.
I'm the show right now.
We're just going to drop everything and talk to you. Do you have time for a little civics lesson? U.S. government teacher that you are?
I have some time today. Are we live now?
Yes, we're live.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I
was listening online, and I think I was a little bit behind the show there. So you're.
Oh no, we were just going through events. You're fine. We know that you're busy, but a couple of things that I had been thinking about. I had forgotten until you got an endorsement from the People's House that the House of Representative is the People's House. As a U.S.
That's right.
As a U.S. government teacher, what can you tell us about the House of Representative and what it means to be a U.S. congressman?
Thank you. Actually, that was I love the idea of the People's House project, because their idea is to bring, regular people, real people, back to the People's House, which is, of course, the House of Representatives. Congress has two branches, of course, as we know. The Senate, which there's a heated Senate debate going on right now. Mm-hmm. The people in the Senate serve 6-year terms, and so you have the opportunity to vote on kind of a rotating basis every 6 years to replace the senator or to confirm the senator. But for Congress, it's actually every 2. And so that gives the opportunity for your representative to, to really continue to work with the people and be somebody of the people. And kind of the history of that role has been, the original idea is that your congressman would, serve in Washington for, for about the 5-month, 6-month term that was originally intended for that role, and then come back into their community and, go back to farming or business or whatever it was that they did. And so they, really were connected to the people to be a more accurate representative of the people that they hope to represent. And the idea of a 2-year term allows for, for people to determine whether or not they think their representative is doing a good job representing them, and then replace them as necessary. And so we don't have, the Constitution doesn't call for term limits for that position. And in fact, initially there were no term limits for any positions. As you guys probably know, the president didn't get it have term limits instilled until the 20th century. But there still continue to be no term limits for either the Senate or the House, or, of course, the Supreme Court. So, that there are unlimited terms, and that's why you see some representatives up there for 20 and 30 years. And so, that's kind of the idea of the representative. It should be somebody who is connected deeply to the people that they're supposed to represent.
So when people call for term limits, there really is a way to do that, and that's with your vote. There is a way to call for term limits. It actually would require a constitutional amendment. It would be the I don't want to say the easiest way to get that done, but the most effective way to get that done. Okay. Of course, amending the Constitution is not an easy process, but if enough people care about it, enough people push for it, then it can definitely happen. Okay. Well, your opponent, Scott Desjardins, has been our congressman for 8 years.
He has.
I have only been in Tennessee for 3 years, but I've never met him, seen him, and I was blocked from his Facebook page. Not because I was mean or nasty, really. I just I noticed some discrepancy between his statements and the articles, or just had a problem with the articles. So, so he's. And I've called and I've written him with little response. So I don't feel like I'm being represented very well. What can you tell us about his voting record, and how your approach would be different? Sure.
It's interesting. I follow a couple of social. I'm a U.S. government teacher. For those of you who don't know, I teach U.S. government in Rutherford County, and of course I'm not teaching now as I'm running for Congress. This is definitely more than a full-time job. But as kind of a political science, nerd, I guess, I follow a lot of different apps on social media and, try to keep up on what's happening. I watch C-SPAN, which hopefully you guys are watching C-SPAN so you can see the inner workings of Congress happening available to you. But there's an app called Countable. And I encourage anybody who's interested in kind of the workings of government to follow this social media app. And so what Countable does is it actually lays out when your representative or your senator votes, and I get an update when voting is happening. And so when you look at the votes that are happening, just yesterday, actually, there was a vote on the minibus, or extending government funding through December, because our budget to keep the government open and operating needs to be approved starting October 1st. That's when the new budget happens. And actually, Congress's primary role, by the way, is to create the laws and to manage basically the purse of the country. So make sure that the budget is operating smoothly, and so that we can fund the things that we believe are important in this country. And so when we look at, like the vote yesterday to expand the budget, Congress has not come up with a budget for 2019 yet. And so what they've done is there was a representative who extended the budget through December, and so that government can stay open. And that's, when you hear about these government shutdowns, when we can't pay our military, we can't pay, we shut down our public parks, several of our government offices are shut down. Those shutdowns happen, in my opinion, because Congress isn't doing their job to, manage the budget. It's their primary role. And so just yesterday, there was a vote to expand a temporary budget through December to buy them more time to work out the budget for the next fiscal year. And so when the votes come in, both Lamar Alexander and Bob Corker, who are Republican senators, approved the budget, and Scott Desjardins, once again, did not approve the budget. In essence, if he would have gotten his way, the government would shut down on Monday. And luckily for all of us in this country, the budget did pass. The minibus, as it's called, did pass to extend government funding through December 7th. And I think that we should not ever come to the cusp of the end of the year without having a budget. Congress, as I said before, Congress's role, one of their primary roles is to make sure that we have a budget so our government can continue to operate effectively and smoothly, and there should be a smooth transition. Imagine if a business didn't have a budget at the beginning of their fiscal year. How would they know to operate? How would they be able to continue to operate their stores or their organization, right, without a budget? And so Congress, we continue to kind of have these cliffhangers every single year, and Scott Desjardins contributed to many of those by not wanting to pass a budget appropriately. He's voted against passing a budget, and in fact was one of the primary reasons for the government shutdowns that we've had over the last several years.
Well, and it seems to be happening every few months. I didn't hear so much about it this time, but I know that it's almost kind of a threat if this doesn't happen, or I'm going to shut down the government, or if I don't get funding for the wall, we're going to shut down the government. So it just seems to be kind of hung over our heads as a threat or a hostage situation.
And that
the past
is
year.
what it really is unfortunately it's been more than a threat, because the government has been shut down several times. And so they've used that threat. It's not just an empty threat. But when Congress can't pass a budget, they're not doing their job. So we need to have people up there. You asked what I would do differently. You need to have people up there that are willing to have the difficult conversations, just like we do in my home, right? When we're, I'm a working class girl, right? We've lived paycheck to paycheck. I've worked 2 jobs most of my life. My husband and I sit down, and figure out when things, the months that things are tight, we sit down and figure out where is the money going? How are we going to make this work? What's important for us? What can we cut back on? We have those difficult conversations sitting around the kitchen table. But the people up in Congress don't seem to want to have those conversations. And it's either my way or nothing. And and that does not make for an effective government, especially the kind of representative government that we have here in the United States.
Well, now, Representative Desjardins is a member of the Freedom Caucus, and that's very fiscal conservative. Is that why he votes no on the budget? Or I know there's been a couple discussions about infrastructure that have been in the Murfreesboro paper. I think he's voting against any money spent for infrastructure. Yet, I believe he voted for all these tax cuts.
He has.
So that's kind of put us in a hole.
I can't speak honestly to the infrastructure bill, but a lot of these budgets allow for infrastructure monies that, if you're voting against the entire bill, you're voting against everything that's in them. And rather than, again, have the conversation to push for the priorities that you want, he would just rather, cut everything, it seems to be. He'd rather have government shut down than us be able to pay our Social Security checks or, pay the housing for our military or, make sure that we're taking care of Medicaid and Medicare payments. So, or, food stamps or whatever it is that, that government does, or, funding our defense. All of those things are paid for through these budgets, and if you just shut it down, you can't care for those things. You can't take care of that. Right.
There needs to be other ways to save money and get our budget balanced. We're a long way from that, aren't we?
That's right. We are.
Well, I have the U.S. government teacher. This is going to be germane to a later discussion that we may have time for, is how do you repeal an amendment? That sounds like it might be a hard thing to do, but...
To repeal an amendment actually requires an amendment. So you have to, it is hard to do, and that's why we don't do it. The President has power through executive order to eliminate certain things through an amendment, through the amendment. So some of the protections can be taken away through executive order. Some of the protections can be taken through the Supreme Court can make some judicial decisions, but the most effective and actually the real way to repeal an amendment is another amendment. And so that's going through the amendment process is quite tedious, and that's why we haven't had very many of them, right?
Right. So, the prohibition. So prohibition was an amendment that was repealed, but there was another amendment to eliminate it. Then, I'll go ahead and tell you the reason I was asking is I know that repealing the Second Amendment gets thrown around, that if the Democrats take control of Congress or the presidency, the Second Amendment will be repealed. And I thought that took constitutional Congress or 2/3 of the states would have to agree. I thought there was quite a bit to that we can't repeal amendments willy-nilly, as my mother used to say.
Again, it takes another amendment to repeal an amendment. And so, it's definitely, I think that's one of the fear tactics, I think, that that's used. I don't know anyone who, seriously is, would consider repealing the Second Amendment. What I believe about gun ownership is that responsible gun owners want their neighbors to be responsible gun owners. And I think that's fair and reasonable. When I received my concealed carry permit, I had to go through a background check. I had to learn how to load and unload properly, how to safely store my weapon. And those kinds of things I think are reasonable for anyone who is owning a gun to be able to abide by. And I think that's practical for our community to do so. And but I've never heard any discussion about repealing a Second Amendment, except for
serious discussion.
That as a fear,
right? And that the other thing is that the Democrats will come out and take all your guns. I don't even know what that would look like.
Again, a lot of the things, and I think this goes back to where we are as a country, and I think why we need to change the kind of people we send to Washington to represent us is, we need to have people who are willing to have the real conversations about policy and have the real conversations about what's best for our community. And instead of just throw these fear tactics or, spread false accusations like the one you just mentioned, right? So, instead of, spreading false accusations about, the other side, we need to sit down, have a conversation, and discuss policy, discuss laws, and discuss what's best for our nation. We have become so far from that conversation these days when it comes to anything. I mean, when it comes to not just, gun rights and the Second Amendment, but when it comes to, equal pay, when it comes to quality, when it comes to a living wage, when it comes to health care, all of those things have really been, the other side has been villainized to the point of fear that it's very hard to get to those real conversations where compromise can actually happen, which is what the spirit of Congress is supposed to be. And there was a time when Congress operated that way. There was a time when government, was designed where people took different ideas and they discussed those ideas. And sometimes those discussions were heated discussions. Not saying that we sat around twiddling our thumbs, enjoying each other's company. These are value systems and value-based conversations. So people are passionate, but we always treated people with respect, and we always treated, the person on the other side, as a valid. And so we need to get back to a time where we can have those discussions, even when they become heated, and still remember that the person on the other side is a human being, has reason and purpose behind their values that they care so passionately about, and, try to find a way to come together and find those areas, those points of agreement to actually get, to solving the problems. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, right? At the end of the day, we want to know that our communities are safe. We want to know that we have, that we can care for our children when they're sick, that our parents are going to be taken care of. We want to know that at the end of a hard day's work, we have a little extra money in our pocket. And we want to know that our kids are going to have a better life than we had. And so when we all have that goal, we just might have different ideas on how to get there. And having those conversations actually allow us to make decisions that will improve all of our situations. But we're so far from that now that we need to change the kind of people we send to Washington.
That's right.
I'll say it again.
and we need people that are going to meet with us and be interested in what we have to say.
Absolutely, because you really don't know what the communities need if you are not a part of the community. I've been traveling the district for the last year and a half, and when I enter a community, people know who I am. They are happy to see me there, and I often get the comment, you're everywhere, and I really do try to be everywhere. I'll be in Franklin County tonight. We'll be
shenanigans.
I'll be in Franklin County several more times before the election day. I have 16 counties to represent. I try to get to as many of the counties as I can each week. Usually about 5 or 6 counties a week. And as I'm out talking to people, I'm hearing their stories, I'm getting their perspectives, and I'm adding that to my solutions. And that's what a representative should be. A representative should represent all of the people in their community, not just the people who agree with them.
Right.
And that's the thing that's challenging is your representative really has to have an open mind and really has to be considerate and compassionate to everyone they represent. Because we know that people in Tennessee have not been voting in the numbers that they really should. So when only 40% of the people vote, and that means that only 25% of the people voted. Only 25% of the people approximately voted for Desjardins. That's an estimated number that's probably wrong. But when I'm looking at looking at kind of the breakdown of the map, he doesn't represent only 25% of the people, right? He represents all of the people, even the ones who can't vote because they're felons, even the ones who are Democrats, even the ones who didn't vote at all, the children who aren't eligible to vote yet. He represents all of those people, and the decisions that a representative makes impact all of those people, and therefore all of those voices, all of those people deserve to be represented.
Right. I've talked to some people that just have given up. They don't like what the Republicans do for them. They don't like what the Democrats have done. Some of them talk about being independent, which is a lot of work to try to find somebody that agrees with your values or libertarian. But what I tell them is not just your vote. You elect somebody and then your job is done. You have to keep our elected officials in line, hold their feet to the fire, and let them know when you're not happy with what is going on, or express your opinion. And it's so easy to do that now. It just takes a few minutes. You can go on the website and write an email. You can call. If you're afraid to actually talk to somebody in the office, you call at like 2 in the morning.
Leave a message.
and leave a message.
But you're absolutely right that it is our job to be a part of that representative democracy. We need to make sure that our representatives, hear our voices. Some people allow that to happen more than others. I know that Scott Desjardins has not had town halls in several years. I don't know if he's ever had one, actually. But he does not have open town halls. Some representatives do that. I think that's a great idea, to be able to kind of talk to your district about what's happening in Washington and hear their concerns. I know that I definitely want to hold town halls. I enjoy being with the people and kind of hearing their stories and applying that to legislation. And so I will definitely be holding town halls when I get elected. And he hasn't done that. He hasn't made himself available. In fact, he's not very available in the community, even to schedule a meeting. If you go to Washington, as I know, I've been to Washington a couple of times and tried to schedule a meeting. This was before I was running, because again, I'm a U.S. government teacher, right? So
right.
When I was a C-SPAN fellow, I was in Washington and tried to get a meeting with my representatives, and he was not available. So, that's the kind of thing that if your constituents can't even meet with you to express their concerns, I don't know how well of a job you're doing as a representative of them. And
right.
We need to have somebody who's willing to listen, willing to have that conversation with the constituents, let alone with the other members of Congress.
Well, the other thing that kind of holds them accountable is the news, to keep us informed. And I know there's kind of a real war with the administration, with the press, and everybody makes mistakes, and everybody can point to maybe a story that wasn't correct or something like that. But this is, I've always felt that millions of people dedicate their lives to reporting the news, and journalists all over the world. And I don't think that they're all out to get anybody. They're trying to get it as well as they can. So it's just a matter of critical thinking. This sounds crazy, or this says the opposite, and just kind of make up your own mind. It seems like sometimes we just want to be spoon-fed everything and not really check things out. I have a couple stories about immigrants. I went to my hairdresser that does a really good job, don't you think, Nancy? She does a good haircut. and we were talking about some changes in Suwanee. Some immigrants own a little store, and there's going to be some rejuvenation of Suwanee someday, maybe in my lifetime, I'm not sure. But she said, their immigrants are okay, but they don't have to pay any taxes. Really? really don't. Oh no. They come over here and they get their businesses and they're tax free for 5 years, and then after that 5 years they have additional family members come and take over the business for another 5 years, and they don't have to pay any taxes. I said, I just don't believe that. So we Googled it, and this is a falsehood that has been going around for decades.
Yeah, there are a lot of myths out there that, again, that try to divide and try to, put false information out there as a way to, kind of turn us against each other. And I think I'm a bridge builder. I'm a unifier. I'm a collaborator. I'm somebody who likes to, to solve problems and bring people together around the table. And I'm somebody who's, when I hear things like that, I like to research for myself. I will be honest, I don't watch a lot of regular news. One, I don't have any time right now because I'm running for Congress, and I'm constantly on the go. I'll listen sometimes in the car. If I'm traveling and I'm able, I'll catch some headlines of what's going on. I get updates on my phone. But what I really like to do is when things are happening, specifically in Congress, because that's where I'm focusing my energy right now. I do like to go to C-SPAN and watch what's happening in the moment or afterwards. I was a fellow for C-SPAN, which means that I actually wrote curriculum for their education program for C-SPAN Classroom. And so I can get on their website and I can find, what the discussion was about a certain issue, what was actually said, what the context was actually said, instead of just those sound bites that make, everybody sound bad. I like to actually get the context of the conversation as I'm, doing my homework and my research. And then, of course, as I said before, I get, updates on my Countable app, and, then I'll go and I'll research what was the conversation about this, and what did our congressman actually say. What was the temper in the room when this decision was being made? Because to me, that plays a lot into how decisions were voted on as well. So,
and you're saying that's accountable or countable?
Countable.
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 Okay, and so that would be from the App Store, or could you?
It's an app. Yeah, it's on it's an App Store. You can, I think you can. It's a website as well, but I have the app, and so I get updates. Your senator just voted on bill such and such.
Right.
These are the votes that are happening tomorrow, and it pops up.
Nancy, do you have any questions or comments from Mariah?
I just wanted to mention this morning, checking the headlines in the newspaper. I think this one came from the Tennessean by Joel Elbert. Right at the top of his article, he was talking about he'd gotten information and input from people about the Phil Bredesen and Marsha Blackburn debate last night, and he's just two things I want to mention.
Yes.
He's quoting from different people that had their own input with regard to both of them. He said, Bredesen's backers say the Democrat will work in a bipartisan manner and not contribute to the political gridlock that his opponent has been a part of and that is found in Congress these days. Then, right after that, Blackburn's supporters say she will tirelessly defend the rights of Tennesseans, including the Second Amendment, which they say her opponent will undermine, underscoring constantly the fear factor. Democrats will take your guns. And we just heard Mariah, who's taught for years, U.S. government, tell us that we have, no one has any logical reason to fear that Democrats or anybody else is going to go to Congress and repeal the Second Amendment. It would be very difficult, if not impossible. Right, Mariah?
No, that's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. And I think that goes back to, Marsha Blackburn's been in Congress for a long time. And, it kind of goes back to we need to change the kind of people we send to Washington, right?
Exactly.
We don't want to have partisan hacks. And I will say there are people there are people, in the Democratic Party that are would also just vote, party line support and not actually listen to everybody's, listen to that conversation. But there are some. I'm not, gonna say that it's just one-sided, but I am gonna say that the temper overall in Washington has been, or the people that I see running right now, I should say, even more so. The people that I see running right now are people who want to get things done, who want to solve problems, who see the fact that we haven't made any progress over the last couple of years because of Congress. Because Congress continues to be broken. They refuse to work together, and they refuse to solve problems. And so Bredesen is trying to, work on that on the Senate side. I'm trying to work on that on the side of the House to make sure that we have people up there who are focusing on solving problems and listening to our constituents and getting things done for the people we hope to represent. And
I want to interject, Mariah, my thoughts exactly. I've just got to say I am so heartened by the fact that folks just like us, like most of us that are just ordinary people, you as a teacher, as a person with I believe you have 5 children, a family, a husband to take care of. Sharon Adams, who's running for the Tennessee legislature. I was just reading on her website last night. She is a retired teacher. She's over in Dunlap, Marion County. Sharon Adams is running for the Tennessee legislature. She's a retired teacher. Her husband is a retired band director. Her parents were teachers. Her brother is principal, I believe, in Sequatchie High School.
Sequatchie County, yep.
Yep, and she and you, not in the high income, the people we speak of, high income people, teachers, ordinary people, and who I was out there would not want somebody in Congress and the state legislature. I think of my little 4-year-old great-grandson. I want him to have good schools available, and folks like you and Sharon Adams are going to be fighting for education for our children,
yes.
The way it should be, and
that's right.
also the economic situation, the people that get up every morning, just like as you mentioned, you and your husband say, well, this is broken. Recently my air conditioning had a fit on me. Those things happen, and you got to figure out what to do. Or ordinary people that deal with ordinary day-to-day issues. Democrats this year have a slate of candidates who I am so proud of. Phil Bredesen had the nerve to come into as governor, and he straightened out TennCare. It put the hurt on some people, but he did. He promised to straighten it out. He did. Carl Dean, mayor of Nashville, I think he carried them through the quote recession. Yeah. And he's a lawyer. I'm sort of partial to lawyers. I think he was. Al is laughing. I've worked for lawyers forever, and I still love them. That says
well, we're all really lucky to know these folks, especially you. I visited my friends in Atlanta last weekend, and they want to be more involved politically, but it's a big city, and there's different indivisible groups, and they make a call, to the offices, and you kind of don't hear back. It's like our rural communities, we have a greater opportunity to be involved than in a big city, and you would think it would just be the opposite, but you've been out there, and it's been a privilege to work on your campaign all this time.
I have to go here in just a few minutes.
I know. I thought I would hear pounding on the door. Or there'd be a hook coming through to drag you away. You've been able to give us more time than we thought we would have.
To another meeting here in a few minutes, but I did want to say one thing just to kind of wrap up. I think that we need to bring government back to the people. That was the way that it was originally intended. It was the way that our government was created, right? Was created for the people, and of the people, by the people, right? And that's something that we need to continue to remember, that the people are the most important part of our democratic process. And so the ones we send to Washington are only representatives of us. And so, that's the way that it should be at all levels of government. And the ones we send to the State House, the same thing, should be representatives of us and the people that we believe are going to fight the hardest for us. And as somebody who's worked 2 jobs most of my life, as a public school teacher, a mother of 5, my husband's a small business owner. He's a musician. He's the drummer for Hank Williams Jr., which is pretty cool. But struggling musician most of our career. We worked hard to get where we are today. And I'll tell you, you hit it right on the head. There are things in my house that I can't afford to fix right now because it's just not in the budget, right? I understand what working families, on a budget go through because I am one. And I believe it's time that we go back to having people in Washington who understand what our working families are going through and who are going to fight for all of us. And that's what I want to do. That's what I have always done here in Rutherford County, where I live, where I work, and where I've spent, much of my time. But now that I've been out over the last year and a half, I see what's going on in different communities. I see the struggles, and I see where I really truly believe I can make an impact. And I hope that your listeners have an opportunity to get to know me. I will be in Suwannee tonight, and I know I have at least 2 or 3 other events in Franklin County over the next 5 weeks.
Okay.
So, I really hope to meet as many people as I possibly can. I'm talking to a gentleman, Mr. Parton, in Franklin County, who has this great idea for a small business to help adults with disabilities continue to get the job training programs. And so I've been talking to him about, what we can do to make his dream happen, which would benefit, people at all levels of the economy in Franklin County. So, I have a lot of ideas on ways that we can get things done, but the most important thing, I believe, is having people who care about the people representing us up there. So, I've been working hard for the hardworking people of Tennessee, and I want to continue to work hard in Washington. So I hope I can get your vote in November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks a lot, Mariah. Have a great day, and I'll see you at Shenanigans tonight. Pizza, 5 o'clock.
Ma'am, I'll be there.
All righty.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, we got lots of time with Mariah.
Yeah, more than we thought.
Yeah. Her campaign
her
manager
campaign,
is
right.
probably freaking out. Sorry, Devin.
Okay. But getting back to, of course, we heard from Mariah, and I just feel so strongly that people like Mariah, Sharon Adams, and by the way, speaking of Sharon Adams, I want to mention something we haven't mentioned. On WCDT, right here, at 8 o'clock on October the 11th, that's our next day, I believe, we expect, Betty Fraley has lined up, Representative John Ray Clemens from Nashville. He represents the district in Nashville, to be here to tell us what's really going on and has been going on in the Tennessee legislature. October the 11th. Everybody listen. Do we have a call?
I don't know.
No? Okay. What I wanted to go ahead and say about John Ray Clemens, he's sort of special. He's a lawyer. He from the Nashville area. He's young. He's not. I don't think he's around 40ish or so. But he ran for the state legislature in 2014 against a long-time Democrat, Gary Odom. He beat him. There was no opposition in that November. No opposition from Republicans. He was elected. He's been reelected ever since. He is someone to listen to.
A caller. Go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
I wanted to say about, let me turn the radio off, I'm sorry.
Oh, this is Betty Fraley, familiar voice. Good to hear from you, Betty.
The last day to register to vote is October the 9th.
6th.
Early voting is
it the
October
9th?
the 17th and November 1st.
Is it the 9th?
Election is November 6th. Don't forget the barbecue on Saturday night at 5:30 at the Annex. I also wanted to toot the horn for Bredesen again and remind the people in Franklin County that Bredesen already knows about Franklin County. Because of him, my husband was able to do all the things he did for Franklin County. He served 8 years under Phil Bredesen. Phil Bredesen did not live in the governor's mansion. Phil Bredesen didn't even take a salary for being governor of the state of Tennessee. That tells you that Phil Bredesen is a public servant. He was instrumental in getting the square in Winchester refurbished. I saw that in the making. Beth wrote and said to me, "Can you get me an audience with the governor?" He was here on a mission for George, and I said yes. I introduced them. Beth said, "Can we step out on the sidewalk?" Said, "Look at this square and these old sidewalks. We need a facelift." Governor Bredesen said, "Get somebody to write you a grant. Give the grant to Representative Fraley. We'll see what we can do." We were one of 6 towns in the state of Tennessee to get refurbished. The money for that refurbishing is the tax money collected in the city of Winchester that gets to stay here instead of sending it to the state of Tennessee until 2022. I heard a rumor the other day that may have been extended. Also, pre-K in every school, I saw that happen. The supervisor of education called and said we need another pre-K class in the county, Mr. Fraley, if you can get it for us. Got on the phone right then. By the end of the day, he had 2 pre-K classes for the state of Tennessee. Governor Bredesen has done so much for Franklin County already. So I want you to remember on Election Day what he's already done. Of course, I want you to vote for Sharon Adams. I'm a retired teacher. Sharon Adams is for people like us, like Nancy said. I think Nancy has already covered that pretty well. And then Carl Dean says that he will expand Medicaid, so that we don't send $1.4 billion every year to other states of our money to help other states. You know, I guess that's all I got to say. I hope I've said it quick enough, and I hope I didn't use up all your all's time. But I just had to add those things. And don't forget Election Day and early voting and the last day to register is October the 9th, and you can register online.
Yes, that's the next. That's the next big day we need to keep in mind and remind.
I don't know why I had the 6th in my head.
I had it on the 6th also, but I read Margaret Otley's. I printed off Margaret Otley's little brochure, which is really good, and she has it right there in red. Yep. Voter registration.
Well, if it's in red, it is correct.
But anyway, I want
3 more days.
Remind everybody of, again, October the 11th, the next time we'll be on here. Please listen to Representative John Ray Clemens, who will tell you he is a fighter for, I started to say for Democrats, but for ordinary people like we're talking about, everyday people. He does not have, as Democrats don't have, and I scribbled down a note here, ideology. The first thing that the other party seems to concentrate on is their ideology. And I want to mention again, when I was circuit court clerk, I had a lot of laws and rules to go by, and I had even my oath to go by that I took and everybody from notary, I got my notary commission extended the other day, had to go up and take an oath before Philip Custer. We raise our hands, all of us get into these offices, and we ought to every now and then look at our oaths and see what we actually swore to do. And I say again, and I want to refer to it again, the oath of office of General Assembly people, General Assembly, our legislators in Nashville, a part of that says, I will not propose or assent to any bill, vote, or resolution which shall appear to me injurious to the people, or consent to any act or thing whatever that shall have a tendency to lessen or abridge their rights and privileges as declared by the Constitution of this state. That injurious to the people, just That just goes right to me, the things that people who are not Democrats support, that are not people-oriented, that not what we get up of a morning and talk about our economic situation, our school situation, and health care. And knowing that, they got to know that people that do not have health insurance are going to be sick and have to get medical care somewhere. Surely they're smart enough to know that, but notwithstanding that, this continued action on the part of our Tennessee administration and legislators to deprive people of insurance continues to be, to me, I just really don't understand it, and it's unconscionable. And that needs to change. And I'm glad Carl Dean is bringing that out in his ads.
Nancy, I just wanted to conclude our show today with some information from a book by John Meacham. He's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. He's a historian. He's a Sewanee graduate, but he lives in Nashville. I think he's with Vanderbilt now. But it's called The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels. And at a time when I always look at the New York Times bestseller list, and there are so many books that Fear by Bob Woodward, and there's someone by Fox, and it goes on and on with these sensational, very negative, very outrageous statements, and of course people gobble them up. But John Meacham's book is on the bestseller list too, and I highly recommend it. It's going to take a little effort. It's not a novelty novel, but it gives us a historical basis, for we've been in dark times before, we've been in difficult times before. Some of the excerpts of presidential speeches are just heart-wrenching and inspiring. So at a time when, and these are some thoughts from the book, so at a time when we are so anxious about the direction of the country, those of us that have deep concerns about the nation's future, how can we enlist on the side of the angels, that is, find the sense of hope essential to American life? Number one, enter the arena with political engagement. Now, you don't have to be a candidate. You don't have to be a political addict hooked on tweets and every turn, but pay attention, express an opinion, and vote. We need to mold our political leaders, not the other way around. They're not to mold us. We're to mold them. We elect them. As Mariah always says, if you want to change the way things work in Washington, change the people you send there, and do it with honor and integrity. Number two, resist tribalism. Oh, this is a tough one. We have extreme views, total warfare. It's very difficult to try and talk to one another. We're probably all more in the middle and want the same things, like you say, than we realize. Number three, respect facts and deploy reason. Harry Truman said the dictators of the world say if you tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. Well, if you tell the truth often enough, they'll believe it and go along with you. So I had used the example of the immigrants not having to pay taxes. The other one that I didn't get a chance to mention is that they get free health care, and that's not the case. They're not eligible for Medicaid and Medicare and the ACA. There are some exceptions to that, but that's a real... anyway, stop and think. Does that make sense? Do the Democrats really want to open the borders and have everybody just pouring across? Now think about it.
Just think what Democrats stand for. That is just common sense, everyday, meeting the needs of everyday people out here. That's what we want, Democrats want to do. That's what our candidates work for.
And then to find a critical balance, be informed, be humble enough to realize that no single camp has a monopoly on virtue or wisdom. Don't follow our elected officials blindly. They are human. They make mistakes. They get carried away, and they're tempted. Both sides, everyone. Again, hold their feet to the fire. That's our job. That's our job for ourselves, our future, our parents, our grandparents, our grandchildren, all the way around. And again, journalists, they get things wrong, but I just don't believe that they're all just trying to feed us fake news. Millions of people give their lives to reporting, and they're not all out to get the current administration. Use some critical thinking. And keep history in mind. A grasp of the past can be orienting. There's no struggle more important and none nobler than the one we wage in the service of those better angels who, however besieged, are always ready for battle. It's not going to be over on November 6th. This is a daily thing that we're going to continue no matter what the outcome. So this is from The Soul of America, The Battle for Our Better Angels by John Meacham. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. That's good.